What's up in War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy, Ike Jones. We are here with another morning drop. Today, we are here to talk about key matchups in the Auburn versus Mississippi State game this weekend. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is Wednesday morning, October the 25th.
Yeah.
Mike G in here, which guy Ike Jones, talking a little bit more about the upcoming Mississippi State game this weekend. Auburn needing an opportunity to get back in the win column. Mississippi State needing an opportunity to get back in the win column. Somebody's got to take home the W. We are definitely hoping it's the Tigers. Before we get started in the conversation, make sure you guys are doing the necessary. That's sharing the video as always. We appreciate those of you who share the video. Shout out to Charles Allen, man. Let me just give a shout out to Charles Allen. Charles Allen faithfully shares our content all the time, man, and we definitely appreciate him for doing that. If you haven't already, go ahead and give that thumbs up on the video, whether you're watching it live or you're rewatching it later. Give us that like right now on YouTube, and we appreciate that. For those of you out there in podcast land, make sure that you're giving us a 5-star review and sharing the content out there as well, whether you're texting it to somebody or you're sending it to somebody on social media, emailing somebody, posting it in your group chat, your Discord, your paywalled board, whatever it is. Now, I actually don't put it on nobody's paywall board because then they'll get mad and say y'all are doing too much. But yeah, share it to somebody, and we appreciate that as well. Anyway, let's get into the conversation. Mike G this morning. Key matchups, Mississippi State versus Auburn. We'll definitely dive into this game more tonight, but is there anything in particular that you are looking at to say, you know what, Mississippi State, this is a place where Auburn can get in here and do damage, or things that you want to see Auburn get in here and take advantage of?
Yeah, listen, no Will Rogers.
Is it confirmed that he was not playing? They're saying he was questionable. I don't know if he's definitely going or not.
Will Rogers. Mike Wright will be the quarterback for Mississippi State on Saturday, and I am excited about that. He passed 8 times last week, 12 attempts for 80-something yards. He did add 60 yards on the ground on 11 attempts. So, yeah, the key to Will Wright is Mike Wright, I'm sorry, is going to be containment. Keep him in the pocket. Don't let him out. And force him to operate from the pocket. This is not like this game gives me the same feeling that the Cal game gave me. Hear me out. This is a clearly inferior team that Auburn should absolutely dominate defensively. And if they have any semblance of an offense, they should win this game. Now, this Mississippi State team was only able to muster 14 points against LSU earlier this season. They have consistently been terrible. They are almost as bad as Auburn offensively.
Yeah, almost.
But Auburn is much better defensively, baby. So the Tigers will take this one. I think the final score here is going to be 31-17. I think the Tigers break the 21-point mark in Power 5 play for the first time this season. And this is the first time in 3 weeks, man, I'm predicting the dub for the Tigers. So it's got to happen because I've been on the street.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been a rough offensive performance, particularly in the Power 5. This Mississippi State defense, make no mistake about it, is a defense that can give people problems. They are a very aggressive attacking defense. And the head coach is their former defensive coordinator, Zach Arnett. But this is also a defense that in the second half of last year's game, Auburn ran like crazy on, right? Like, this is a defense that has not improved since last year. If anything, they've actually taken some steps backward in terms of just some of their personnel that they've had on defense that's caused them to not be as sound as they could be defensively. They've still been a good defensive team, though, and they still have some opportunities to go out there and create havoc. But for me, I think the big thing for Auburn as far as We'll start first on Auburn's offensive side and talk about what things that they should be able to take advantage of. I think that this team should be able to throw the ball on Mississippi State in the short to intermediate areas. They should be.
Yeah,
but I need to see it.
Yeah. Are they going to incorporate that into the game plan? It's
there. It's been there all year, and I keep telling people, keep giving me this: wide receivers aren't getting open, and offensive line's not blocking long enough. That short to intermediate game has been there all season.
Let me tell you. So I let me pose a question. Does Hugh Freeze trust these quarterbacks to throw the ball? Like, even with Thorne in the game, the amount of attempts that he has in a game is indicative of a coach who does not trust a quarterback to run the ball. Now, during his Monday presser, Ike, he talked about I'm sorry, to throw the ball. During his Monday presser, Ike, he talked about the quarterbacks, and he mentioned their packages, and he said that neither quarterback is running the whole offense.
Correct.
That is an incredible statement.
Yeah.
Not even the dude you chose to start is running the whole offense. So at this point, you are intentionally limiting yourself. Why can't these guys run the whole offense?
Yeah. I don't understand that at all.
I don't understand it.
Which listen, I understand that it's an expansive offense and maybe it's going to take some time to install the entirety of it. But if you're saying, which he is saying, that listen, they've got a portion of the playbook here that I'm focusing on, this other. So there are people on this offense, namely the offensive line, that have the whole offense that they're available to run. Right. But wide receivers, they're limiting to it because he's taken portions of the wide receiver room and portions of the tight end room and allocated them to a quarterback, and then another portion of the wide receivers and another portion of the tight end room and allocated them to the other quarterback. And he's parsed out the offense in that way so that no one has to learn all of it, except, again, for the offensive line, who, for the most part, they're just doing, it's either going to be a zone block or they're going to be doing pass sets and that sort of thing, right? Their stuff isn't changing drastically. But my question about that is he doing that to help the quarterbacks? Is he doing that to help the tight ends, wide receivers, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I think that has been the problem so far this season is that we don't know what they're doing on offense. What is this? Saturday, you and I were in the building, and from the press box, at times you could hear spatters of boos coming down from the crowd about what we're seeing. I don't know if I remember hearing boos at all last season.
I don't remember.
As bad as things got.
I definitely put a lot of last season out of my memory. Trying to go back and watch film, but yeah.
I don't remember hearing a time of hearing boos last season. This is historically bad. And I know that's not a positive message, but this week is a chance for them to turn it around. You just have to find something that works. Listen, guys, if Harsin can do it from Missouri to LSU, then Freeze can do it. I'm sorry. That offense looked awful versus Missouri last year. And then LSU, they found something and they changed it up and they was like, we're going to do some different things. Why are they so stubborn, Ike? I do not understand this. Here's the thing. Here's where pressure, I think, is a good thing sometimes for these coaches, because everybody's preaching patience, but now I have a different message. Maybe the heat needs to be felt just a tiny bit to turn this thing around starting this year. Now, it may not show up in the wins column, and that's okay. But it can start to look like something before the end of the season, but only if you see the error in your ways and decide to pivot. I'm sorry. Everybody keeps saying, Mike G, you need guys. And I'm like, it looked better than this last year with supposedly worse guys. They found something these guys could do. There was more excitement with Cadillac's old school, early 2000s offense over the last 4 games. 30-something points they put up on Mississippi State last year, lost in overtime.
Yeah.
Find something these guys could do
against the Mississippi State team again that I feel like personnel-wise was better defensively and had a better offense at that point in time as well.
correct.
So
Correct.
if you can duplicate just what you did last year,
You win this game running away.
yeah.
There's
And
no
it's at home.
excuse for it to move backwards.
I don't think there is a good reason for Auburn to lose this football game Saturday.
There's not. Like, listen, again, I said it last week on our show. I said it on Locked On. I said it on every radio show I went on. If you lose, I said lose to Ole Miss, right? And then there's a lot of pressure on Mississippi State because if you lose that game, you might be looking at Ofer in the SEC. You lose this game, losing to Arkansas and Vanderbilt is not out of the question, right? People laughed at that when I said that early season. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Vanderbilt might not be one we can just chalk off. Now we're here and we're looking at Vanderbilt and we're thinking, I don't know, which team do you beat if you can't win this game? They would have to play down to the competition to lose this game. It is the exact same way I felt about Cal. That team did not have better guys than Auburn.
No.
Jay Knott was okay. Our defense shut him up. Shut these guys up. Not that they're talking.
Yeah. Listen, listen. We haven't gotten to the defense yet, but I think the defense is going to come to play Saturday. Like I don't have a question in my mind about whether or not the defense is going to show up because they've shown up for really every game except LSU, where it just looked abysmal. And there were points during the Ole Miss game where they were out there confused, misaligned, that sort of thing. But for the most part, they showed up against Ole Miss. I think this defense feels the urgency of this moment and they're going to show up. But the question is always going to be for this season, whether or not we can put an effective offense that's going to be out there and give the defense a little breathing room at some point in time in a Power 5 game.
Do you remember last year, Camden Brown high pointing a football in the back of the end zone against LSU?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Jarquez Hunter running down the field and catching bombs from these quarterbacks? Right? It shocks me that neither one of those guys has a moment like that, and we're halfway through the season.
Yeah, I mean, the closest you're going to have is the run from Jarquez Hunter last week, and then he had a late catch last week. That was a pretty long play.
Yeah,
but yeah, we just haven't. Explosive plays have been at a minimum for sure for this offense, particularly in the Power 5. You've got a couple in the non-P5 games, but
if they could scheme it last year, it can be schemed this year. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And because these are the same guys, and we would be talking about them regressing, and I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
So they've got to find something that these guys can do. Again, you missed an opportunity with Robbie Ashford earlier in the season to maybe give him the reins. I understand why they didn't, right? Because I don't think we had seen anything from Thorne to suggest if that's the way you started that you make a pivot at that point. And I'm talking about the first 3 games, Ike. So you had UMass and Samford in the first 3 games. Mm-hmm. But after you get into SEC play, it was like, man, here's the problem. Now, if you have to switch, you have to switch versus Power 5 competition. Mississippi State is as close to a warm-up game as you're going to get in SEC play so far this year.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make a change, make it this week. Hang with your guy and see what he can do. And if he can't do it, then sit him down.
Yeah. If
he can't do it, then sit him down, go and try to make it through the end of the season. Because I think it's pretty clear at this point they have no intention of playing Holden Gardner. So,
nah.
It's give Robbie a shot. If he can't do it, sit him down, go with Payton, or continue your quarterback carousel thing through the end of the season if you think that gives you the best shot to win. And we'll move on to next year.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody, including the coaching staff, feels like the quarterback carousel is a recipe for success.
Then why are they doing it?
I think that I said this to you when I was up there in the booth. I said it again, I think on Sunday, and I'll repeat it again. And I've said it to multiple. It looked like quarterback tryouts out there, man. It looked like a spring game. I think that they were just trying to find something that they thought that they could go with and work. And I think that I don't think we're going to see it the way we saw it this past Saturday again. for the remainder of the season, where one series this guy trots out there, then the next series another guy trots out there, and they're going to go back and forth. And then in this down in distance, because it's 3rd and 6 or more, you're going to put Payton Thorne in the game. And if it's 3rd and 5 or less, then Robbie Ashford's. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. If we do, then I think forget what I think. The players are going to start to lose confidence if they haven't already in the plans that we're deploying out there. They just will, because if it's not making sense to me, it's definitely not making sense to the guys that are going out there and practicing this stuff. And then you can't tell me that's how practice is going. You can't tell me that in practice that they're going through drills and scenarios and they're like, every time we're in 3rd and 6, we're going to be in this personnel grouping and we're going to go with this quarterback. And if we're in 3rd and 3, we're going to go like that. I just don't feel like that's what's happening in practice. And so for it to be deployed during the game, it's got to feel weird for the players. And I think it will be a point of where you start to lose some confidence in whoever's calling the plays and their ability to put you in prime positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, taking another look at this Mississippi State defense, they're allowing 25.7 points a game. 239 yards through the air, 127 yards on the ground. You have to hit their averages in this one. Mm-hmm. That's going to mean close to 400 yards of offense for Auburn. And this is a team that has failed to put up 300 yards of offense in 3 of their last 4 games.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I don't know that you think that we would be here.
No.
But when I tell people this offense is bad, right? Like, you have to be able to score on bad defenses, and you cannot play down to them. Like I said about the Cal game, they don't play defense in that league, man. They've got all these 3,000-yard passers. Cal is on track to win like 2 games this season. They're awful. The fact that game was close was embarrassing.
Yeah, in retrospect, had we lost that Cal game, the fact that we struggled in that Cal game, first and foremost, is red flags in retrospect, right? But had we lost that Cal game, this season would have looked abysmal, because I'm sorry, as much as Cal fans wanted to come in here and say we were disrespecting their team, Cal's not a very good team. Right. They just aren't.
Listen to this, right? They have 3 wins versus North Texas, Idaho, and Arizona State. They barely beat. They lost to Auburn. They lost to Washington. They lost to Oregon State. They lost to Utah. Their remaining schedule is USC, Oregon, Washington State, Stanford, UCLA. They will probably finish this season
with 3 wins,
with 7 straight losses.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is not a good team. It was not a good team. The fact that game was close, and they talked about road wins and all this. No, you should have gone in their house and you should have beat them down, because you were the superior team. You just didn't have the superior scheme. And I will die on that hill. So when you look at Auburn offensively, right, 337 yards a game they are averaging. Actually think that has dropped some. That's dropped some, so they need to update that. But ultimately, the trend, like, think about it. The average is 337 yards per game, but they've gotten below 300 yards in the last few games. So the trend is down, right? They're trending down, and it's unfortunate. When you look at that, let's see, if I pick a season that's, was really terrible. We go back to 2012, right? They won 3 games that year. They averaged 305 yards per game on offense, right? 305 yards per game on offense. They averaged 156 yards through the air, 148 yards on the ground, and they only scored 18 points per game. Now, Auburn is scoring more points per game. I think that's more a product of the defense and the turnovers that they're creating and the opportunities that they're giving us this offense, right? But they were dead last in almost everything in 2012. Statistically, this season is on pace to rival that one, and that's nuts. Now, last year, we would all agree was a disaster, Ike, a complete disaster. Auburn missed a bowl game. They still managed 4,542 yards of total offense at 378 yards per game. They are already lagging behind that total. I think there's no way they catch up. And if you look at it right now, even if the averages hold, they will fall 500 yards short of that yardage total from last year. So, this is, I want to be clear. I spit those numbers because I want to be clear. This is regression. And there was no excuse for this. You had to come in and at least do on par with what they did last year. Find something that works for these kids. You were supposed to be the superior offensive coach with the superior system that's done it before in this league. And you can't let your pride get in the way. The game has changed so much since Hugh Freeze was last in the SEC. And I would argue that if you add a little nuance to this argument, it is easier. It's never been easier to play offense in college football than it is today. True. The rules are so offense friendly, right? You can't touch a receiver. You can't touch a quarterback, right? I mean, scoring is out of control because they're making it easier to score. Why? Offense sells.
Yeah.
People want to see shootouts. They know that. They know even at the NFL level, like, it's hard to watch a defensive slug out. They want scoring because that's what keeps fans engaged and excited, and it creates highlights that they can talk about and highlight how good their product is. So to fall below last year's totals in today's day and age, there are quarterbacks right now in the NCAA that will finish with more yards passing than Auburn will have total offense on this season.
Very true. But wow. Listen, last year we had an opportunity to pivot in those last 4 games. We have 5 games left on this season. We've got an opportunity to make some differences in what we've got going out there. And Coach Freeze has said, pretty plainly that we haven't been running the style of offense that he typically runs. And he's trying to do that to protect the depth that we have on defense. But now I think it's just time to unleash it and let's go out there, let the chips fall where they may, because here's the brass tacks of it. We've tried it a different way. It hasn't worked. It hasn't resulted in additional wins. It definitely has not resulted in a more proficient offense, win or lose. I think now is time to figure out whether or not we can just go ahead and put the foot on the gas for these last 5 games and let the defense say, hey, coach, you might. I'd prefer they go out there and go gas. And then the defense is super tired and they look over there and they're like, all right, you know what? Maybe we need to take our foot off the throttle a little bit and give these guys a little bit of a break in the middle of the game, rather than saying we're just not going to do it the total of the game and put ourselves in a bad position. Go score some points, man. Give the defense some time to catch their mental break from having to rescue every single drive because you're putting points up on the board. So right. I think it's time to do that.
Yep, agreed.
All right, we are going to get into some comments. You guys have been great out here commenting, and I see some interesting ones that I want to get into. But before we do, we need to acknowledge today's show sponsor, and that is Manscaped. Gentlemen, across the nation, I have an urgent message for you. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the brand that took your balls to space, is now launching them into Ultrasphere, introducing the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the waist. That's why I trust Manscaped for all of my sensitive areas. That's not me just reading an ad. That is true because I have this lawnmower, and that's what I trust to get the job done. I'm lucky to be one of the first ones to try the new Lawnmower Ultra 5.0 Ultra, and to say it's a game changer is an understatement. No more wet shaving down there. Count me in. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use code REPORT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code REPORT at manscaped.com. Your balls have been through enough. It's time to go ultra with Manscaped.
Your balls have been through enough.
They've been through enough, man. Don't put them through more.
Okay, all right.
Your balls are like Auburn fans. They've been through enough.
See, they went through the hard times. They've been through the struggles.
Complete pause. All right.
Time to see the forest through the trees.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to get into the comment section. We appreciate you guys dropping in with us this morning. As always, we try to start it off with the super chats. One coming here from Jeremy Range Photo, who says, Auburn has a chance to win out and eliminate UA from the college football playoff.
Oh boy, let me tell you something. If there was ever a consolation prize, this would be it.
Yeah.
Right. And I read an article talking about this would be the first time since the inception of the playoff that Alabama would have missed the playoff straight years or something like that. I mean, they've been in almost every one, so I don't know how significant that statistic is, but yes,
doesn't make it any less true, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, at the end of the day, they've got a great program over there. Even if they don't make the playoff, this is as close to a rebuild as they've had in a really, really long time. And they're still pretty good. But ruining that so we don't have to hear them chirp about dominance, yes, absolutely. It would be amazing.
Sign me up for spoiler. I'm good for that.
Yeah, I love it.
James Barnett says, fellas, what do you think about Payton Thorne's comments yesterday? Sounds like he's taking shots at everyone but himself. Robbie owned his mistakes. Thoughts? So let me comment first here.
Okay.
I'm not going to comment on Payton Thorne. I'll let you comment on that. Robbie owned his mistakes. I didn't hear any comments from Robbie to know what mistakes Robbie has owned from that game. And let's be clear, Robbie didn't have a perfect game on Saturday. He definitely made mistakes. I don't know where Robbie's comments are in regard to that. But the Payton Thorne comments, yeah, I don't really understand them. I'll let you speak on that because I don't really have much to say.
I saw Robbie's stuff. I did not see. Can you help me out here? What did he say?
Who? Payton Thorne?
Thorne, yeah.
He essentially said that because the questions were asked of him about what does he feel like the offense and what the struggles are and how can they, and he's like, we just got to get on the same page out there and guys got to run the right routes. And all he can do is go with the play calls that are being called for him and, to make the right decision to pull or whatever. And, he just felt, it felt like he was just saying, hey, we're not on the same page with what we're trying to get done out there. And he didn't specify, whether he was talking about coaching not being on the same page with what they're calling for him or players not being on the same page with what they were doing on a particular concept or anything like that. But he did make it seem as if there was a lot of confusion around the offense and what they were trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, let me read this quote. Our guy Andrew Hughes at Fly War Eagle posted this. Shout out to Andrew, appreciate him. He aggregates a lot of our work. This is a quote by Payton Thorne. He says, "You can't get in there in a situation like that and try to do too much." Thorne said, "I don't feel like I've done that, so just keep going in there and executing the play that's called. If it's called to hand it off, hand it off. You can't try to pull it and make something crazy happen."
He did say that.
That sounds like a shot at Ashford.
Listen, it can definitely be read that way. Now, the question was asked about whether or not, I think how the question was posed, you could assume that he was saying he's just doing what he's supposed to do. And that's all that, he's not going to go out there and try to do too much. But it could be perceived as he's taking a shot at Robbie. It could be.
Yeah, when the coach had mentioned it, which he is absolutely allowed.
Again, I understand how people arrive at that conclusion. I'm going to give Payton Thorne the benefit of the doubt that he's not going in front of cameras during a media thing and taking a shot at the other quarterback. Now, do I hear that quote and see how people arrive at that conclusion? 100%.
Yeah.
There's no, I think a lot of people would take it there and make that conclusion as well. And so what I would say I know Payton Thorne does not listen to our show. I don't know that a lot of players who we don't know personally do. Actually, I don't know if a lot of players listen to the show at all, even if we know them personally. Their parents probably do, but I don't know if any of the players actually do. But I would say to anybody who does listen to the show and would talk to Payton Thorne is this. You need to find an opportunity to say that's not what I meant.
To clarify that comment.
You need to find an opportunity to say that's not what I meant. Or go to Robbie personally and say, hey, man, I know people are saying this. You're in the locker room with that. Find a way to clarify that, whether you do it publicly or privately. Should do it publicly because you said it publicly. Clarify that comment and say, I know this is being said that this is what I meant, but that is not what I meant by that comment.
Yeah,
I would take that opportunity if I were Payton Thorne to at least straighten that out with Robbie Ashford, but probably needs to be clarified broadly if that's not what he meant. I would say.
Yeah, here's what I would say. Because I'm going to be very consistent here. Messaging matters. The words have impact and they have meaning, right? listen, man, if you are a believer, the Bible tells us that life and death is in the power of the tongue, which so many other things are in the power of the tongues. The things that you say matter, especially when you are in a leadership position or you're in a public position. So, my first inclination based on what we heard earlier this week is to think like, wow.
Yeah.
And
he's a team captain, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you should not be making
this.
That was about somebody.
Yeah.
Or some situation. Yeah. So if it wasn't about you, it was about somebody else.
Correct.
Right. And I don't know that you go in front of the camera as a player and make a comment about another player, a play another player didn't make. Can you imagine like Joe Burrow has a dropped pass and they lose, and then he goes in front of the cameras and says, we got to catch balls in the end zone, when they're there. And while that is true, saying that is wild, right? About another one of your teammates. And now you may be able to say, hey, we didn't make enough plays today to win. That's on me. But as a team, we have to play better. Okay, great. I get that. I do. But referring to a specific situation is, man, that's a mistake that young man will look back on and say, shouldn't have said that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes listen, and while what he said, I want to be clear, while what he said was accurate.
Correct. Yeah. No one's dodging the
I just don't think accurate.
In front of the media is the time to make
no, and you are not the messenger.
Yeah.
The coach is the only person who is the messenger for that, because of the division that it potentially creates when that message comes from you. You cannot do that, man. You cannot do that. So like I said,
I wouldn't want to hear Jarquez Hunter out there talking about
the old line not blocking.
Well, no, another running back on the team making a wrong. Like, I mean, if that running back, if when we're in the game, we just can't, fumble the football, right? Like if some other running back fumbled during that game,
and he didn't fumble, and he's talking about fumbles, you're talking about that guy, right? So like I
wouldn't want to hear it from him.
Yeah. That's not what you. Now listen, accountability privately from player to player.
Yeah.
Right. Now listen, get on his ass in practice. In the meeting rooms. Come on, man. You got to hold on to the football. We don't fumble at Auburn. Hold him accountable. In front of the cameras, babe, that's house stuff, baby. You don't let us see that.
Right.
You do not. I can't imagine that went over well with his teammates. Because you know what? Here's the deal. It doesn't matter that it's another quarterback. If it were me, I'm like, if he will do it to him, he'll do it to me.
Well, I mean, again, what I did hear him say was we got to run the right routes out there. Like that is, there's no way to aim that at anybody except for wide receivers, right? Like he said that pointedly.
You are not, but again, he's not, it's not untrue.
Correct.
You are just not the messenger. Because of how guys may potentially take that. You want guys to go out there and play for you?
Yeah. I guess my biggest problem with it is I don't remember hearing, and I listened to the entire, like this is me, I'm not trying to take stuff out of context of what I read or in snip. I listened to the entirety of the comments that were posted online for this. I watched the video of him say it. I don't remember hearing him say, you know what, I've missed some throw. And maybe he did. Maybe my brain just tuned in to the times where it was like, whoa, what? I don't remember him saying, and I think maybe he did. Let me give him some credit. I do think maybe he said, I've missed some throws, and, but I would have preferred to hear him say, you know what, I've got to play better. I've missed some opportunities to make some throws out there that were there. I've had some reads that were improper out there. If I play a mistake-free game, this offense looks a lot better. I'd have preferred to hear that. Yeah. And that way you say you can own, what I have to own the portion of this that's me, because I really can't change anything else but try to motivate and elevate the play of the guys around me. If he had said that, I'd have had no problem with any of his comments.
Can you imagine a wide receiver getting in front of the camera and saying, you know what, we got to see open receivers when they're there, right? Like,
yeah, it'd be out of place.
It would be out of pocket. I would have the same energy for them. Like, wait, what? You're calling out your quarterback? You're not wrong. But you don't say that. Like, I'm so. I mean, I get that you give him the benefit of the doubt.
I have to because
I'm going
I
to be on
can't
the
read
other
his
side.
mind.
I'm going to be on the other side, and I'm going to say, I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt. There, you cannot do that. You can't. You
No,
can't
I don't disagree. If that was his intent and that's what he meant, then he is. There's no way to color that as appropriate.
Yeah,
It's completely inappropriate to do.
We have a show later tonight. Later, if I can think of a way he could have meant that, I was positive, I'll come back and correct myself. But I'm not seeing it right now. So thank you for this comment.
Miller House says, I'm actually looking forward to Saturday. The defense has an opportunity to play fast and cause havoc early. Absolutely has that opportunity. He jumps back in and says, we're not as physical on offense as we were last year. So here's the thing that I agree philosophically, we're not as physical, meaning we're not trying to run downhill. But man, if you go watch film on this offensive line and the way that they run block, a lot of times you're seeing this offensive line generate, and we have led the league in yards before contact in the run game for not led, but we've been in like the top 5 in the league consistently this season. Auburn has consistently generated room for running backs in the run game. The issue is we're not staying on the field long enough for us to see the benefits of that in any sustained runs, and we're not really getting those second and third level blocks that allow us to break the long runs like we had versus Ole Miss in this last game, where they decided to drop the safety down. So if you get past the first level, there's nobody back there. You're not seeing that a lot with defenses that we're going up against. Ole Miss was the first team to really do that, and we were able to take advantage of it. I don't think that we're not as physical this year. I think we're not committed to the run in the same way. So I think it's a philosophical difference, not a physicality difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ant Robinson says, I think that the run game will play a big part in this week's game. Is DA coming back this week?
Oh, I don't know. I have something for you guys on this one tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes. Damari Austin was at practice this week. So, and he is working his way back. Whether he will play this week, I'm not sure of that yet, but he is definitely getting closer to his return.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter. Yeah, we'll have something for you.
Steve Bradley says, I think Robbie will have a better running game this week if given the chance. Listen, I don't know. I mean, he didn't have a bad running game this past week. He honestly, they were playing Robbie to run in the Ole Miss game. And so 9 times out of 10, the read said to hand the ball off, and that's what he did. He took advantage of the times that he was able to pull. And of course, that first play of the game, I'm taking that out of the read said to run the ball. So he handed the ball off because, again, that wasn't really supposed to be a read. He's supposed to hand the ball off. It wasn't a read option play. That was supposed to be a handoff. But I think that teams are going to play Robbie Ashford to run the football. And so they're going to live with, we're going to just have to shut the running back down on the front side, or they're going to live with him throwing the football. We need to give Robbie the option to throw the ball more often so that defenses have to play him honest. And once you do that, Robbie Ashford becomes an even more effective runner. But he does help your run game in the fact that, again, that defensive end is sitting on that side and they're not crashing down on the run 9 times out of 10. So you run it effectively a couple of times. He's like, all right, cool. I got to do my job and go get after it. And Robbie's done a good job of knowing when to make that pull when reading that defensive end. If Robbie stays patient, he'll be fine. Once he gets impatient, that's when he messes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Miller House again says, we're also lacking leadership or a voice on the offensive side of the ball to light the fire, to get the guys going. We need that eye of the tiger mentality. I'll say this. After hearing the comments from Payton Thorne yesterday, he's supposed to be that guy that is the leadership voice. So I do think, and the guys who you would expect to be that guy, your quarterback, maybe your star running back, that's not really Jarquez's thing to get up and be the rah-rah guy. He's kind of outspoken.
The rah-rah guy, yeah.
DA is definitely the more vocal guy in that group, so he is going to be able to provide that. But him not being on the field, it loses a little bit of that luster because he can't go out there and run through a guy and then get up and be like, I got y'all, let's do this. And listen, Robbie's got that kind of fire, but he's not the starting quarterback. So he can go out there and do all of the rah-rah stuff he wants to as well. That's not going to be, unless he's in the game, it's difficult to follow his lead in that way. So they do. They need to find it somewhere, and it needs to be the guy who's starting at quarterback who does it. He got a lot of props during the offseason for his leadership ability. The tough times during the season are when that needs to show up. So if he's going to be your leader, he's going to be your captain. Now is the time for him to prove it.
Yeah, agreed. That you need voices in the room, Ike.
Yeah.
Who can rally the troops and get everybody motivated and up and keep them playing for something.
Yeah.
You know, this is a really important game in terms of the outlook for the rest of the feeling for the rest of the season. You know, and this will be a test on the core of this team and the mentality of this coaching staff and how they are able to say, you know what, the season has not gone the way we planned, but we're going to go out there. We're going to give it our all for the people who sold out season tickets and give them a reason to show up. I want to take this moment to give a real shout out to the Auburn family for last Saturday.
Awesome.
That environment was raucous. It was absolutely electric. The fourth quarter light show, all of it, man. They hung in there until Ole Miss put 28 on the board. And then you saw some fans starting to head for the exits. I think after the deep Thorne interception, a lot of people were like,
yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, that was it. We saw some people head for the exits there. But, man, they gave Ole Miss all they wanted. And if you were a recruit and you were there, you saw a great environment. But the team has to do their part. They do. Like, you know, I mean, it's college, so the loyalty is better than pro teams. But ultimately, give them a reason to cheer. Give them a reason to continue and show up, right? Listen, man, it's not cheap. Traveling to these games and, you know, being, you know, taking your family and paying for multiple tickets and food and gas and overnight stays for some of these people to show up and play, right? Give it your all for those guys, right? The A and the U means something. It means something to a lot of people who show up. They're not there to just see a football game. They're there to be part of an experience, which is the Auburn family. And you have to play hard for those people. So I hope that they can get up for this game and create some momentum. Right now, you were 3-4, even it up at 500 at 4-4. And if you can win the next, you start now. This should be the beginning of a streak.
Yep.
Where you beat Mississippi State and you beat Arkansas, right? And you beat Vanderbilt and you beat New Mexico State. And suddenly we're sitting here talking about a 7-win team going into the Iron Bowl.
Yep.
And all those teams, make no mistake, are beatable.
Yeah.
So this is the softest part of the schedule, man. I wish they could have gotten out of this part of the schedule with at least one win.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So
it'd been nice.
Yeah, you know, going to make that Iron Bowl worth a one for the ages, man. Neither team going anywhere. But Auburn with the 8th win versus Alabama in the Iron Bowl this year would be pretty epic, I think.
I agree. But yeah, listen, man, we're going to talk more about this tonight. We will definitely have more words on this game with the rest of the crew as we get in here. But we are going to get out of here for this morning. We appreciate you all dropping in with us. As always, the morning drop is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Make sure that you guys head to rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT for all of your needs over there, and they will take care of you. Again, we'll be back with you guys tonight. Share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel before you get out of here. Again, if you are over on the podcast, make sure that you're giving us that 5-star review and sharing the podcast with somebody. Again, we'll be back at you guys the next time. Until then, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Drop!